Life Audio.
Hello. Thank you for listening to Your Daily Bible Verse, the podcast that examines one verse each day to learn more about God and His will for our lives. I'm your host, Kyle Norman. After this short word from our sponsor, we will dive into today's verse. We all struggle in our faith from time to time. Psalm 23 speaks about the valley of darkness, and ancient writers often referred to the dark night of the soul. Life zigs when we want to zag. But just because we might feel spiritually discouraged at times, doesn't mean that God has abandoned us or that we are failing in our life with God. If you need to be encouraged in your spiritual walk, I invite you to join me at revkylenorman.ca. Be reminded of the grace, hope, and love we have in Christ Jesus. Today's verse can be found in Exodus chapter 3, verse 2. There the angel of the Lord appeared to Moses in flames of fire from within a bush. Moses saw that though the bush was on fire, it did not burn up. My wife and I like to go for evening walks. We always take the same journey. We leave our house and walk up the road. We walk beside the park with the pond and the playground. We pass the townhouse complex with the large bushes in the front. The journey is always the same. I sometimes wonder how I would respond if I came across one of those large bushes completely aflame. Would I think it a random occurrence or an instance of forest fires common in my area? Or would I think of it as a divine encounter? How might you respond? The question is a little unfair, as we know the biblical story very well. Years of Sunday school flannel graphs, children's Bibles, and animated representations have etched this divine meaning in our memories. The burning bush is Moses' divine commission. But just wait for a second. For Moses, this divine manifestation is utterly miraculous. He had never witnessed something like this before, and truthfully, he wasn't looking for it. Consider for a second that Moses is simply guiding his flocks as he normally does. It's safe to assume that he had led that flock to this very location numerous times, and while we know it as the mountain of the Lord, at this point in history, it's simply a rock formation along the horizon. For Moses, the sight of the burning bush occurs on a day and a journey like so many before. Yet on this day, surrounded by the ordinary, God makes God's presence known. Could it be that God comes to us amid our daily routines? What if there are burning bushes all around us, places where the Lord makes Himself known in the intricacy and normalcy of our days? Scripture highlights how God often reveals God's self within the ordinary and the commonplace. The very incarnation that we celebrated just a week ago celebrates this very truth. Still, many people find the idea of God coming to them, speaking to them, far beyond imagination. Such experiences, it's mistakenly believed, are reserved for the holy and the set apart. But the burning bush holds before us the truth that God enters our world, and it matters not who we are or where we are. There are moments in our lives where God reveals God's presence. And what is more, God calls out to us. Moses hears himself addressed. Moses, Moses, God calls. By calling out to him by name, God reveals an intimate knowledge of his life. God knows who Moses is. God knows what he has done in the past and what he was hiding from. God knows his temperament, his faults, and his fears, and still God shows up. Still God comes. Still God calls. Where might the Lord be calling to you? Jesus doesn't want to stand on the sidelines of our lives, a mere passive observer of our days. Jesus wants to be known. And so he calls us into a fellowship, asking us to join our lives with his and to follow to the places where he leads. You might not know the depths to which Jesus is calling you. You might have questions, fears even, and that's okay. Standing before the burning bush, Moses did not have a full picture of this divine calling. Yet this unknowingness doesn't deny the truth revealed in the burning bush. The task for Moses at this point, the task for us, is simply to respond to God's presence and to dare to believe that God was reaching out. Where might there be a burning bush that you are called to investigate? Where is God reaching out to you? Where is God calling to you? Do you see a sign of the Lord's presence when you're at your work? Or when you spend time with family or friends? Is God tugging at your heart when you think about a certain person or a certain situation? Moses never went out looking for the presence of the Lord. But what if we did? What if we sought out the burning bushes around us? What if we looked upon the normal places of our lives as the very places where God comes to us? What if we dare to believe that in the most regular and routine of moments, God's voice calls and sends us out? The burning bush, as miraculous as it is, declares the wonder of God's presence amidst the ordinary. The biblical account is about God meeting an ordinary person on an ordinary day. And if we can be open to this possibility in our lives and willfully follow the way that the Lord leads us, well then who knows what divine wonders we might encounter.
Your Daily Bible Verse is a production of Life Audio and Salem Media. If you liked what you heard today, please take a second to rate and review this podcast in your favorite podcast app so that more listeners like you can find the show. For more faith-filled, inspirational podcasts, visit us at lifeaudio.com.